This girl's name is Do-hee. She has a special talent for manipulating other people's psychology. That's why Do-hee is highly regarded by the chairman of the conglomerate. Do-hee is the director of the public relations department of Yoon-sung Group and is a famous person in the industry. The second daughter of the group, Chae-ryung, suffers from anger management disorder. Therefore, she has caused a lot of abuse and assault on servants. But even so, Do-hee still has many ways to change public opinion. When Chae-ryung went to see the prosecutor to accept the investigation, Do-hee bribed the reporters. Do-hee asked the reporters to take pictures of the lady's outfit and the thin hair that was revealed when she bowed to everyone. Faced with the increasingly aggressive reporters, Chae-ryung could no longer bear it. She almost went crazy in front of everyone. Fortunately, a protester threw eggs at her, which prevented a violent fight from happening. While protecting Miss Chae-ryung left here, Do-hee's high heels fell off and were lying on the ground. She didn't have time to find her shoes and went straight into the prosecutor's office with everyone else. The person who threw the eggs at Chae-ryung was also arranged by Do-hee in advance to deal with any unexpected events. But Do-hee's plan was not over yet. Do-hee asked Chae-ryung to pump her milk in the interrogation room and then ordered the person next to her to take a photo. Not long after, an article written by Do-hee was published, stating that the second lady Chae-ryung had to return to work less than 2 months after giving birth. Due to the after effects of giving birth, she started to lose a lot of hair, and because of the excessive stress of work, it led to severe postpartum depression. Even so, she did not forget to pump milk for her child. In this way, the conflict of the scandal was transferred to women's human rights. Since then, the public has criticized the police for forcing the investigation and depriving Miss Chae-ryung of her right to be a mother. Do-hee's strategy was a huge success. The topic of women's human rights has caused a huge stir in public opinion. Immediately after that, the outfit Chae-ryung wore that day also entered the hot search list. The elegance and fashion of the outfit quickly dispelled the influence of the scandal. Do-hee has easily won over public opinion. Just as she resolved one troublesome problem, another one came right after. Do-hee heard that on the rooftop of Yoon-sung Group there was a lawyer sitting quietly protesting, and it has been 78 days now. Lawyer Kyung-suk is a human rights lawyer who focuses on women's rights. This protest was to protest against Yoon-sung Group's actions of firing a series of female employees. Do-hee investigated the resume of lawyer Kyung-suk, whose nickname is Fighting Cock. From the words, one could see the madness inside her. Do-hee did not want to confront such a crazy person directly, so she handed the matter over to the union to handle. The next day, Chae-ryung's husband, director Jae-min, returned to the country. As soon as got off the plane, Do-hee arranged for reporters to wait there and asked Jae-min to follow the script to create the image of a husband who neglected his wife and now felt very regretful. Jae-min is a smart person, so his performance in front of the camera is full of emotion, making everyone believe him. Do-hee directly took him straight to the chairman's house. At this time, Chae-ryung had just been released by the prosecutor's office. She was also storming into the house. As soon as she saw Jae-min, she slapped him hard because his apology to the media confirmed her image as a mentally unstable woman. Chae-ryung flew into a rage and screamed loudly like a wild animal. In the end, she fainted from lack of oxygen. But the chairman did not care about daughter, but instead told Do-hee to protect Jae-min well, because the chairman's next plan was to make her son-in-law the mayor of Seoul. Because of this, the chairman needed Do-hee's help. Speaking of the origin of the relationship between the president and Do-hee, we have to go back many years. When the president went to attend a new employee training session, her silk scarf was blown into the river by the wind. Do-hee, who was still a new employee at the time, jumped into the water without hesitation and retrieved the scarf. Then, she respectfully returned it to the president. Because of this incident, the president kept Do-hee in mind. Not only did she give Do-hee a similar silk scarf, she also kept Do-hee by her side as an effective right arm until now. After saying her plan, the president turned around to look at the news that was being broadcast on the big screen in the building opposite. In front of the Unsung department store, human rights lawyer Kyung-suk had summoned the temporarily laid-off female workers. They began a collective protest. Many women's groups and labor unions were also gathered there. Everyone protested together, demanding that Unsung Group cancel the dismissal of female workers. The chairman immediately became furious, so Do-hee quickly contacted the media to request that the news be deleted. In addition, addition to promoting the news and public opinion, lawyer Kyung-suk also started a live broadcast calling for women to unite. During the live broadcast, lawyer Kyung-suk took out the expensive shoe that Do-hee had dropped. Lawyer Kyung-suk used it to link with Do-hee and said that Do-hee was the one in charge of helping Unsung Group deal with the aftermath. She was also a toilet that could remove all kinds of dirty water. Lawyer Kyung-suk nicknamed Do-hee Toilet Hwang. Do-hee quickly went to the scene of the incident. The staff there explained the situation that the female temporary workers had said that if they were not all allowed to return to work, they would jump off the building and die. Do-hee wasn't afraid of anything. She told them to let them dance if they wanted to. This scene was recorded by a guy who was live streaming. He held his phone and walked in front of Do-hee. The number of viewers of his live stream increased rapidly. Seeing that the situation was getting more and more serious, Do-hee quickly went to the rooftop. She was ready to confront lawyer Kyung-suk directly. Kyung-suk listed a series of crimes of Unsung Group and also advised Do-hee not to be a lackey for the Tycoons anymore. They wouldn't value her because she worked hard. They would never acknowledge her existence. Do-hee had offered extremely generous conditions in the hope that Kyung-suk would stop her confrontation with Unsung Group. Kyung-suk was unmoved. What Kyung-suk wanted wasn't power and money, but to create a clean and beautiful world. Facing Do-hee, who was still trying to persuade Kyung-suk to bring a bucket of urine and pour it all over her. Seeing that lawyer Kyung-suk was not an easy person to deal with, Do-hee could only use more drastic measures. Do-hee had someone push Kyung-suk down from the rooftop. The group's anniversary was approaching, so Do-hee could only use this measure to prevent Kyung-suk from continuing to cause trouble. In addition to having to deal with everything that happened unexpectedly in the company, every member of Unsung Group needed Do-hee to step in and solve any problems. Jae-min has been in trouble lately. His secretary has been sending him flirtatious and ambiguous messages. Not only did she praise Jae-min's unforgettable charm at work, she also asked him to go for a walk together. Jae-min did not refuse his secretary's good intentions. He even ate noodles with her in the room. Seeing that Jae-min did not refuse, Yi-sol became even more aggressive. While working, she took the initiative to offer herself, and she went all the way to Jae-min's private room. Jae-min felt that something was wrong, so he refused to open the door for her. He even transferred Yi-sol out of his group. Yi-sol was extremely angry. She said that she wanted to expose the truth that she had been seduced by Jae-min. When facing Do-hee, Jae-min admitted that he had feelings for Yi-sol, but had never done anything that crossed the line. Do-hee immediately called Ji-sol came. The secretary recounted everything that had happened, with tears of resentment rolling down her cheeks. Yi-sol brought instant noodles to Jae-min as ordered, but the other party wanted to molest her. After hearing what Yi-sol had said, Do-hee showed Yi-sol the text messages that had been sent from her cell phone to director Jae-min. The content of the text messages clearly showed that it was Yi-sol who had been constantly bothering director Jae-min. The secretary could not deny it, but she had not sent those text messages. Immediately after that, Do-hee took out the photos of Yi-sol as a bar waitress and began to analyze that she had a knack for seducing men. Playing with men was as easy as turning her hand. As long as Yi-sol's past was revealed to everyone and added a few false rumors, her life would be completely ruined. Do-hee asked Yi-sol to resign on her own initiative, considering this matter over. Thought this matter was resolved perfectly, but when Do-hee went out to meet the chairman, Yi-sol chose to leave this world. Her whole body fell heavily onto the roof of the car. The button in her hand fell to the ground. Do-hee was shocked and couldn't believe her eyes, but someone else caught her. After returning to the office, Do-hee saw the email that Yi-sol sent before leaving this world. Yi-sol clearly explained the reason why she went to work at the bar that year. The night before Yi-sol graduated, because she couldn't apply for a student loan, she couldn't go to college. Her mother was sick and bedridden. With no other choice, Yi-sol could only work for the bar to pay for her tuition. Yi-sol's past was not glorious, but it also meant that she could endure Jae-min's actions without saying anything. Because of Jae-min, Yi-sol's life was ruined. But Do-hee is still protecting the mastermind behind everything, even solving problems for him. Do-hee saw the button in front of her and understood everything. This was the button that Yi-sol had snatched from Jae-min on the night she was raped. Do-hee was extremely depressed. She went straight to Jae-min and wanted to check his phone to confirm the content of the message that Yi-sol had sent him. Do-hee opened his phone to review the messages between the two of them. Suddenly, she accidentally pressed the call button. Unexpectedly, the phone in Jae-min's jacket behind him suddenly rang. He immediately felt worried. Only then did Do-hee know that Yi-sol's messages were actually fabricated by Jae-min. He saw that the matter had been exposed, but he did not show any panic, instead smiled calmly and apologized to Do-hee. He said that he was sorry for causing her more trouble. He also did not expect that girls nowadays were so weak. Seeing the ferocious beast in front of her without any remorse. Do-hee gritted her teeth. Jae-min smiled and mocked her and saying that the mastermind who revealed Yi-sol's past and forced her to this point was actually Do-hee. The evil deeds Do-hee had done in recent years had become more and more shameless. Now, because of the matter of Yi-sol's secretary, her conscience had suddenly awakened. Do-hee's tears made him feel extremely disgusted. Hearing Jae-min say these words, Do-hee had no way to refute. She was speechless and could only turn around and leave. Even though she knew clearly that Jae-min was a devil, in order to protect the unsung group, Do-hee still had no choice but to help him cover up that crime. That night, Do-hee went up to the rooftop, and in daze, she seemed to see Secretary Yi-sol crying in front of her. Do-hee suddenly remembered that she had ordered her subordinates to push Kyung-suk down from the rooftop. Do-hee hurriedly went to the department store. At this time, Do-hee's subordinates at the corporation were ready to go and push Kyung-suk down from the rooftop. Kyung-suk didn't know what was about to happen. She was still live streaming on the rooftop. Kyung-suk spoke out in protest on behalf of the female workers, but suddenly the signal was disconnected. A group of men in black rushed up to the rooftop wanting to push her down. Kyung-suk resisted with all her might. Just when they were at a loss for what to do, Do-hee promptly chased after them, stopped the men in black, and ordered them to leave quickly. But someone winked at the people who were lying in ambush there. The other party immediately jumped up, wanting to grab Kyung-suk. Seeing this, Do-hee refused to stop. She ran over and pulled Kyung-suk to jump down with her. Luckily, they fell into the lifebuoy, so they only suffered minor injuries and were taken to the hospital to recuperate. This caused a stir in the media. Lawyer Kyung-suk was dubbed the hero of the laid-off female workers. Meanwhile, Yoon-sung Group was pushed to the forefront of the wave. People criticized the group for firing the temporary workers, so protests arose one after another. Yoon-sung Group held a special board meeting because of this. The chairman was extremely angry and criticized his subordinates for being incompetent and unable to do anything. The group was now facing an extremely great danger, so what was the best thing to do? At this time, Jae-min suddenly suggested that all the laid-off workers should return to work. Consider it a personal investment in him. The president was so surprised that she asked the department heads to step aside so she could talk to Jae-min privately. This was the first time her son-in-law had made a request in 7 years. Jae-min spoke his mind. He knew that the president wanted him to join the political bloc and then contribute to the group. Jae-min, who had been incognito for 7 years, took this opportunity to restore the group's image. The news that all the fired employees had returned to work had calmed public anger and paved the way for Jae-min's political career. At the same time, to show his absolute loyalty, Jae-min said that he would become a loyal follower of the president and help her get to a higher position. Do-hee had long been discarded by the president like a worn-out pair of shoes. The president asked Jae-min if he could do it alone. Jae-min said that he had dealt with Do-hee. The president scolded Jae-min for not knowing his own limits and daring to eliminate the person who had been under her control for the past 10 years. After hitting Jae-min, the president pretended to be gentle again. She wanted to hear Jae-min's specific plan. Soon, Do-hee's subordinate, Ji-yeon, came to report the situation. It seemed that she had been bribed by Jae-min a long time ago. Ji-yeon went to the hospital to find lawyer Kyung-suk. She set a condition that if lawyer Kyung-suk accepted Unsung Group's apology and would not pursue this matter any further, all the fired workers would be able to return to work. Hearing this, lawyer Kyung-suk was a little moved. Ji-yeon then went to report the situation to Jae-min. Before leaving, Jae-min looked at Ji-yeon. His lustful heart arose again, and he rushed to kiss her. In order to invest in the son-in-law to participate in politics, it was obvious that the mayor of Seoul had to resign. So the chairman secretly exposed the mayor's illegal receipt of campaign funds, so he was extremely angry. That evening, he made an appointment with the chairman to have dinner together. The mayor personally tore off the head of the fish with his own hands and gave it to the chairman. Throwing down the handkerchief, he immediately said that the chairman didn't know what was good for her and dared to do such a thing behind his back. In order to make the chairman be a little more reasonable, the mayor revoked the land development rights of Yoon-sung Group. If the two had turned against each other, the chairman didn't show any fear at all. The chairman directly ordered subordinates to reveal the news that the mayor's wife was wearing 300 million won worth of jewelry, along with the extravagant and promiscuous life of the mayor's son abroad. Under such circumstances, the mayor could only announce its resignation. Seeing that the chairman had begun to focus on investing in younger sisters Jae-min, who was about to reach new heights, the chairman's eldest daughter So-jin was extremely anxious. She hurriedly went to find Do-hee and wanted to make a fuss about the death of Secretary Yi-sol to defeat Jae-min and her younger sister. Seo Jin asked Do-hee to reveal the cause of Yi-sol's death and find an excuse to create a fake story to deceive the public. Jae-min met Yi-sol at a bar, then helped her pay her tuition and used that excuse to support her. Then he recruited Yi-sol into the company to be his secretary. It wasn't until Yi-sol got pregnant that Jae-min began to abandon Yi-sol, forcing her to choose to leave this world. Do-hee heard what the older sister said and felt extremely terrified of this woman. Do-hee did not want Yi-sol's reputation to be humiliated again, so she firmly refused. At the same time, she also emphasized that she was only following the chairman's orders, which left Seo Jin helpless. At this time, Jae-min, who did not know anything, was still starting his performance. First, he personally went to Yi-sol's coffin to pay his respects and ask about the deceased's family. Then he personally came forward to help the fired workers return to work and also announced that he would promote them to official employees. Kyung-suk also compromised with Jae-min for the benefit of the workers. In front of everyone, the two shook hands and congratulated each other. Jae-min also appeared shy and hesitant in front of the media, announcing that he was participating in the Seoul mayoral election. At this moment, Jae-min on TV was laughing very smugly, but Do-hee was so angry that she couldn't stand it. The chairman had advised her that Jae-min had only made a small mistake, so just consider it as helping him relieve some pressure. But Do-hee didn't think so. This wasn't a mistake, it was a crime. But before Do-hee could finish her sentence, the chairman fired a warning shot to warn. The chairman told Do-hee to apologize to Jae-min and then help him run for mayor of Seoul. Otherwise, Do-hee's position would likely be replaced by Ji-yeon. Do-hee was extremely angry inside. She looked at the hunting dog that had just caught its prey nearby and kept thinking about her own fate. Do-hee directly refused the chairman's order. Then she put on her black sunglasses, pulled off the silk scarf around her neck, and then walked forward with strong steps. After returning to the company, Do-hee was preparing to write a resignation letter when the company's internal network suddenly sent a notice announcing Do-hee's dismissal. At this moment, Ji-yeon suddenly pushed open the door and entered as a candidate to replace Do-hee's position. Ji-yeon's attitude immediately became arrogant and said that if she fired Do-hee this time, she wouldn't be able to receive any pension. Consider it a punishment. It was basically equivalent to packing up and leaving the house. Ji-yeon also said that she had a recording pen in her hand that recorded the entire conversation between Do-hee and Yi-sol. If after Do-hee was fired, she still wanted to use Yi-sol's death to cause trouble, Ji-yeon would hand over this recording pen to Yi-sol's family and prove to them that Yi-sol was forced to death by Do-hee. Do-hee's path of struggle was completely blocked by Ji-yeon. Do-hee didn't dare believe that Ji-yeon would go this far, but she only replied to Do-hee that all of these were things that Do-hee had taught her. This like being trapped in a cocoon. Do-hee left Unsung Group in a miserable manner. At this time, the hospital suddenly announced that because Do-hee had been fired, the chairman had removed all the benefits for her. Her bedridden father had to be moved out of the VIP room. Even the transplant surgery that had been arranged earlier had been cancelled. Do-hee did not expect that the chairman would do such heartless things. Do-hee went to see the chairman late at night, asking her if you wanted to harm my father. The chairman did not deny this because doing so would at least make the chairman feel a little better. After all, being betrayed by her right-hand person was something she needed to vent her anger on. The chairman's noble appearance made Do-hee not know what to say. Perhaps only now did she realize that over the years she had helped the chairman to assist others in doing bad things. That was a very wrong thing to do. But Do-hee would not give in. She would definitely destroy the chairman's Unsung Group, destroy the world built with the sweat and tears of countless ordinary people, making the chairman taste the pain of losing everything. Turning around and leaving, Do-hee went to the funeral home to visit Yi-sol. Do-hee would definitely make Jae-min crawl on all fours to apologize to Yi-sol. Do-hee's revenge needed the help of someone. That person was Kyung-suk. Today, Do-hee went to Kyung-suk's office and wanted to talk to her for a bit, but there was a deep hatred between the two. Kyung-suk basically didn't want to pay attention to Do-hee. After Jae-min decided to run for mayor, he immediately wanted to pull Kyung-suk, who had recently become very famous, into his campaign team. Jae-min was very attentive and caring towards Kyung-suk. Dongju, who worked with Kyung-suk, also saw Jae-min's intention to join forces with Kyung-suk. But at this moment, she became hesitant. Kyung-suk also saw that Jae-min's motive was to take advantage of her fame as a civil rights activist to pave the way for him. Therefore, Kyung-suk went to find Do-hee again. She wanted to hear the reason why Do-hee came to her. Unexpectedly, what Do-hee said was extremely surprising. Do-hee hoped that she could help Kyung-suk become the mayor of Seoul. This was clearly just a far-fetched story. Kyung-suk didn't want to continue listening. She only felt that Do-hee was at wit end and wanted to use her to take revenge. But Do-hee said bluntly that she was not doing this for herself, but for the residents living in this area. Right now, Jae-min was being so friendly with everyone just to coax the residents to agree to rebuild the market. Then the bank staff would come and submit loan applications to each person. The end result was that the people lost their homes and land and left behind a debt that needed to be paid. After saying that, Do-hee gave Kyung-suk a USB. In the afternoon, the bank staff came as expected. Kyung-suk was a bit surprised. She opened the USB and saw that inside was Do-hee's plan to overthrow the former mayor. At this time, Do-hee also entered Kyung-suk's office. She bluntly said that all of this was a game that Un-sun used to entertain the world. The residents in the market were trapped, and Kyung-suk also had some of her strength. Because she and Jae-min had shaken hands and made peace at first, that made the residents trust Jae-min. Do-hee once again suggested that the two of them work together to destroy the capitalist empire of the chairman and Jae-min. Seeing that Kyung-suk still didn't trust her, Do-hee could only bring up the matter of Secretary Yi-sol in tears. Because she forced Yi-sol's secretary to death and covered up everything Jae-min did, it made him arrogant like now. This completely changed Kyung-suk's attitude towards Jae-min. After an internal struggle, Kyung-suk challenged Jae-min. At an extremely important party, she loudly scolded him for being shameless and caused Yi-sol to lose her life. Jae-min was not angry at all, but thought that Kyung-suk was too free to worry about other people's business. After saying that, he warmly took the other person's hand and acted normal in front of the media. Seeing the people who chose to believe in Jae-min because of her, Kyung-suk couldn't stand it anymore. She said right in front of the media that not only would she not join Jae-min's campaign team, but she also wanted to do her best to prevent a scumbag like him from being elected. If necessary, she would also run for mayor. After saying that, Kyung-suk and Do-hee walked out of the hall with strong steps, their demeanor more carefree than ever. Although Kyung-suk was happy for a moment after returning, she was stopped by the people at the door. They criticized her for ruining Jae-min's mayor development plan. Kyung-suk was indescribable. She knew that she couldn't explain the reason to these ignorant people, so she could only hide in her room and refused to come out. The matter of Kyung-suk and Jae-min no longer cooperating was also exaggerated by the media. The chairman couldn't help but feel disappointed with her son-in-law's bad start, especially after knowing that the person behind Kyung-suk was Do-hee. The chairman ordered Jae-min to handle this matter well. If necessary, he could kneel at Do-hee's feet and beg her to return to the group. But how could Jae-min do such a do a loss of face thing? So he gritted his teeth and endured it, then turned around and told Jiyeon to think of a way to deal with Do-hee. That night, after the meeting between Do-hee and Kyung-suk ended, when the two were going home, Do-hee was intentionally hit by a car. Kyung-suk and Dong-ju rushed to chase after the car that caused the accident. Dong-ju, who was healthy, resolutely tore off the badges on the chests of those people to prove that they were people sent by Un-sung group. Do-hee was also taken to the hospital. Seeing Do-hee lying unconscious on the hospital bed, Kyung-suk, who was still hesitant about running for election, finally made up her mind. In order to protect the righteous people who still had a conscience, as well as the residents of the market who were deceived by those tycoons, she was forced to stand up for election. After returning home, Kyung-suk declared to her husband and son that she wanted to run for mayor and drag that bastard Jae-min down. Although her son was extremely angry about this, luckily her husband Kyung-suk still understood her. He supported her to do what she wanted to do, and he would take care of everything at home. Kyung-suk was deeply moved. She hugged her husband and cried. Not long after, Kyung-suk visited Do-hee in the hospital and also announced that she had decided to run for mayor and asked Do-hee to become her civil servant. But Kyung-suk still had a few requests, which was that she refused to use any illegal means. Kyung-suk's principle as a person was that she was not allowed to follow the dirty path of other politicians. Do-hee nodded in agreement and told Kyung-suk that she could use fair and square methods throughout the process. It was just that once Do-hee decided to use her own strategy, Kyung-suk had to cooperate fully. The two shook hands and officially became comrades. Kyung-suk's entry has become the commoner's representative among the candidates, forming a clear contrast with Jae-min, who represents the wealthy class. In addition, there is another famous candidate, which is the familiar face in the political world, Congressman Min Jung. Coincidentally, Min Jung's public affairs officer, Director Jung-suk, is Do-hee's ex-husband. Kyung-suk's campaign office is located in a newspaper office, and the team members are extremely busy preparing for the upcoming plan. Do-hee begins to analyze and believes that to be successfully elected as mayor, the things that is indispensable is money, organization, and reputation. They only have reputation, so the team's main target right now is not Jae-min, but Congressman Min-jong. Defeating Congressman Min-jong and the party behind her can transfer all the resources to Kyung-suk, giving Kyung-suk enough confidence to confront Jae-min. The next day, Do-hee took advantage of her old connections in the Eun-sung group to have reporters secretly take pictures of Congresswoman Min-jong's lavish lifestyle. Then they brought it to the press and questioned the source of funding for her lavish lifestyle. At the same time, they also hired a professional stylist to design a new image for Kyung-suk, tightening her corset and wearing eye-catching suits, cutting off her long hair. After many changes, Kyung-suk immediately became a brave and experienced person, a completely new image. Congressman Min-jong's team was not willing to be weak. In order to tarnish lawyer Kyung-suk's image, they took advantage of her sweating a lot to deliberately make many videos that tarnished her image and spread them on the internet. On Jae-min's side, the chairman specially invited a high-ranking politician was Carl Yoon to prepare to guide Jae-min step by step to win. Carl Yoon went to the campaign office and met Jae-min. He only needed one glance to see that Jae-min was an outstanding person on the outside, but a cruel person on the inside. Carl Yoon also paid close attention to the strategist Do-hee behind the civilian candidate. After he joined Jae-min's campaign team, the first thing he did was to cancel the TV debate that Jae-min had originally planned. The main characters of the debate were Jae-min, Congressman Min-jong, and Kim-suk, but now it turned into a confrontation between two women. Jae-min was furious that Carl Yoon had made his own decision and missed out on a great opportunity to show off himself. But Carl Yoon loudly said that he was a piece of trash that even Kyung-suk couldn't defeat. Carl Yoon used his undeniable authority to tell Jae-min that he had participated in 12 elections, and he had personally trained 2 presidents, so as long as Jae-min listened to him, he would help Jae-min become president. The news of Jae-min's withdrawal had spread, and Do-hee immediately realized that someone was helping him. Do-hee originally wanted to use this debate to make Jae-min and Congressman Min-jong confront and attack each other, but now that Jae-min had withdrawn in a strange way, Do-hee could only find another way to defeat Congressman Min-jong. She went to find the investor behind Congressman Min-jong and said that Congressman Min-jong had recently submitted a bill. It contained content that endangered the interests of investors. Sure enough, the investor immediately made an appointment to meet with Congressman Min-jong to officially challenge her. Congresswoman Min-jong could only say that it was just a play, and that when she took the position of Seoul mayor, the benefits that should have been given would still be given to the investors. But the investors were still not satisfied and felt very dissatisfied with Congresswoman Min-jong's cunning actions. Congresswoman Min-jong later investigated and found out that it was Do-hee who had leaked this news to the investors. Congresswoman Min-jong was extremely angry because she had not made any move yet, but Kyung-suk's people dared to come and cause trouble for her first. Congresswoman Min-jong was forced to fight back. At the same time, Do-hee spent the whole night guiding Kyung-suk to practice the content of the speech contest. The two of them felt more and more sympathetic towards each other. The next day, Kyung-suk brought Do-hee and her campaign team to participate in the speech contest with great pomp. Before that, Do-hee had posted a video online revealing the lavish life of Congressman Min-jong, which was in complete contrast to the simple and honest life of lawyer Kyung-suk. Before the debate had even begun, the public opinion war had already begun. That night, Kyung-suk went to the broadcasting room of the TV station, which was surrounded by supporters. She set foot on her first battlefield, officially confronting Congressman Min-jong. Congressman Min-jong used Do-hee's past scandal as an opening to mention her terrible past under the Tycoon. The bad stories were endless, and it was completely against Kyung-suk's goal of protecting human rights. But now the two of them have become companions. Kyung-suk had no intention of covering it up. She admitted that she and Do-hee had indeed stood on opposite sides in the past, but in the process of confronting each other, Do-hee began to face the reality of workers' human rights. She would not abandon the woman who had devoted her life to her because of their past differences of opinion. Speaking of this, Kyung-suk mentioned that Congresswoman Min-jong had given preferential treatment to large companies that owned chemical plants while ignoring the people's protests. Faced with lawyer Kyung-suk's harsh words, Congresswoman Min-jong could only reply that she would speed up the audit of chemical plants. But when she turned around, she sent someone to tell the investors that what she had just said was just a formality. Next, the two female candidates were broadcast live at the same time. In order to answer the questions of Do-hee's supporters, a young man was arranged to ask questions to Congressman Min-jong. The moment she saw saw the other one, Congressman Min Jong, panicked a little. She pretended to be calm and recalled the scene of her and the young man Suho kissing. Seeing that Congressman Min Jong's face had changed a little, director Jung Sok stopped the live stream. Congressman Min Jong immediately flew into a rage at director Jung Sok and scolded him for clearly being Do-hee's ex-husband, but being teased like that by her. Unexpectedly, Do-hee used this trick. Congressman Min Jong calmed down and continued the unfinished live broadcast. A girl asked whether in order for two female candidates to win together, they needed to consider the possibility of having only one candidate. Kyung-suk answered firmly that as long as she could promote the development of society, even if she was a candidate, she was willing to stand on the same side as Congressman Min Jong. For this question, because did not consult with her party in advance, so Congressman Min Jong did not dare to rush into answering. But Kyung-suk did not care, as long as it was good for the people, even if she was told to join Congressman Min Jong's current party. Kyung-suk even took off her corset because she did not like fake things. The ultimate goal was to wholeheartedly serve the people of Seoul. Kyung-suk hoped that Congressman Min Jong would not say such empty words anymore. Everyone was honest with each other, trying to protect Seoul from the control of the Tycoons. Faced with a person with a strong heart like Kyung-suk, Congressman Min Jong could not resist. The live broadcast ended in such a chaotic state. This time, lawyer Kyung-suk won convincingly. Director Jung-suk was smoking sadly. Do-hee walked in front of her ex-husband. Jung-suk couldn't help but question her on what exactly she was trying to do. Suho was just a musical talent sponsored by Congressman Min Jong. Do-hee exposed Congressman Min Jong's ugly face with just one sentence, that she used the Tycoon's money to create a musical instrument bank. She sponsored 300 million won for the commercial organization and even bought a house for the young man named Suho. The two of them were very intimate in the house. Seeing that their relationship was about to be exposed, she thought about cutting off their relationship. At the same time, Jae-min was also watching the live broadcast. Seeing how arrogant Kyung-suk was, he decided to reduce her arrogance. Carl Yoon told Jae-min a good plan. The next day, Jae-min held a meeting. He talked about the Green People's Fund that he founded. This fund in particular created a safe zone for all women in Korea, including single and unmarried mothers. Jae-min brought his wife to appear in public, but Chae-ryong's expression was a bit unnatural. This abnormality was noticed by the reporters. They immediately asked her if there was a crack in their relationship. Chae-ryong followed Carl Yoon's plan and revealed that cancer cells were growing in her uterus. Because of that, she could no longer have children. During the chemotherapy, she became extremely sensitive. Jae-min originally wanted to be by her side, but she stubbornly refused him. She hoped that her husband could devote himself to charity work, helping more mothers in miserable situations. Hearing his wife's words, Jae-min, standing beside her, promptly revealed his reaction, heartbreaking tears falling down his face. After saying that, Jae-min hugged his wife and continued to fulfill his role as a devoted husband. Chae-ryong quietly told her husband that this would be the last time she agreed to act with him. Acting had to be done well, so Jae-min placed a passionate kiss on his wife's lips. Carl Yoon and Ji-yeon stood high above and watched and congratulated the success of the play. The news of Jae-min and his wife was posted online, making the people extremely moved. Therefore, Jae-min's approval rating continued to skyrocket, and he successfully became the first among the 5 candidates. Kyung-suk took second place, while Congressman Min Jong only ranked third in the rankings. Min Jong no longer had the competitive advantage. Even the investors who had funded Congressman Min Jong switched to investing in Kyung-suk. Min Jong was extremely angry and immediately ordered director Jung Suk to investigate Kyung-suk's family background so that she could grasp the opponent's weakness. Min Jong would definitely win this election. Now that Jae-min was on the rise, he once again went to the market to call for support. Going there would attract a lot of followers to support him. They would gain wealth and live a completely different life. Do-hee stood in the distance watching Jae-min smugly. She swore that she would definitely stop his election campaign. Do-hee went to a reporter she knew before and asked him to report on the story of a foreign company holding the commercial licensing rights for development sites in Seoul. The land was originally intended for an apartment complex, but the project was abruptly cancelled and the place became commercial land. The true identity of this foreign company was really suspicious, and this matter was also related to Yoon-sun Group. When the president saw the news, she invited the vice mayor as a guest and even secretly signaled that the vice mayor was her subordinate, so he should listen to her. The chairman ordered him to speak up about this. Seoul City has never had any cooperative relationship with foreign companies, and it would not suspend the current reconstruction projects and revoke the permits based on baseless speculations. The vice mayor had received help from the chairman, so he had to help her deal with the consequences. Just as the vice mayor was about to make a clear statement, Do-hee came to the scene, then took out a photo of the vice mayor and the chairman meeting. Only needed to show the photo to the reporters, and the content of the news could be left to them to do as they pleased. Under Do-hee's pressure, the vice mayor announced at the press conference that the reconstruction permits for foreign companies would be temporarily suspended until the next mayor was elected. After a new mayor was elected, this one would have the right to decide whether the project would continue or not. Because the project was stopped, the president suffered a huge loss. After the president learned that the person who incited the vice mayor to oppose her was Do-hee, she immediately went to Do-hee's current residence. Seeing Do-hee living in an extremely simple rooftop house, the president couldn't help but sigh and say that Do-hee was living in hell and living with the trash born of poverty. After saying that, the president arrogantly advised Do-hee to stop and wanted to reconcile with Do-hee. But Do-hee did not give in at all. From the moment she decided to cooperate with Kyung-suk, she had completely cut off all avenues of return. Seeing Do-hee's stubbornness, the president gave up on persuading her. The president only used a tone that was both a reminder and a threat to talk to Do-hee. On the next journey, the president told Do-hee to be careful. After returning home, the chairman told Carl Yoon that it was time to get rid of Do-hee. Jaemin also kept urging Carl Yoon to seize the moment because he was having a headache more than ever. After saying that Jaemin snatched the tie that Ji-yeon had carefully prepared for him, she immediately revealed a resentful expression. Coincidentally, Chae-ryong saw it. Her sister So-jin signaled to Chae-ryong that those two must have something shady going on. So-jin reminded Chae-ryong to manage her husband well and be careful not to let bad news ruin election campaign and end up being abandoned by mother. Chae-ryong was extremely angry inside. She knew that this was her only chance to defeat her older sister, who was favored by her mother. Do-hee continued to monitor the private life of Congressman Min-jong. It was revealed that Min-jong had signed her daughter up for music lessons for 20 million VND per month. Do-hee understood the hatred of unfair education among Korean mothers, so she immediately released information that the daughter of Congressman Min-jong received expensive personal training. Very quickly, Korean mothers began to protest collectively, demanding that Congressman Min-jong withdraw from the election, and that Min-jong also appear publicly to apologize. Surrounded from all sides, Director Jung-sok immediately asked Congressman Min-jong's daughter to appear to appease public anger. However, Min-jong's daughter did not want to participate in her mother's election. The girl thought that her mother was depriving her of her human rights. Congressman Min-jong clearly explained the benefits and harms. Once the election was ruined, the daughter would no longer have the money to study abroad in the United States. The daughter could only agree to this when she heard this. Director Jung-suk prepared to use the excuse that she was ostracized by classmates to appeal to everyone's feelings. Although the girl was rebellious and rude, under the authority of Director Jung-suk and Congressman Min-jong, she still had her long hair cut. She stood in front of the media and cried, saying that when she was in high school in the US, she was ostracized by her classmates. Since then, she had suffered from a mental illness, so she took such an expensive music class just to use music to treat her psychology and step out of the darkness. With the great acting ability of Congressman Min-jong and her daughter, they successfully resolved all the dangers. After the press conference ended, Carl Yoon invited Congressman Min-jong to meet and deliberately revealed to her that Kyung-suk's campaign fund had a loophole. He could help Min-jong eliminate Kyung-suk. Congressman Min-jong, who was very angry, immediately agreed to cooperate with Carl Yoon. Carl Yoon and Congressman Min-jong exposed Kyung-suk's use of the Women's Association's support fund to eat expensive Wagyu beef. Carl Yoon, with his experience, accurately controlled the public's emotions. He revealed the specific amount of support and the cost of the meal. The next day, a large number of reporters stood outside Kyung-suk's house. It was the first time Kyung-suk had encountered such a situation, so she was extremely panicked. But after calming down, she requested an immediate press conference and cleared up the rumors that Congressman Min-jong had targeted her. Do-hee respected Kyung-suk's thoughts, but just as she started preparing, the hospital called to report that Do-hee's father, who had lost his memory, had suddenly disappeared. It turned out that Carl Yoon had anticipated this. He had intentionally sent someone to take Do-hee's father to a remote place in the suburbs to distract her mind and energy. Sure enough, Do-hee was unable to stay by Kyung-suk's side at the press conference because she was looking for her father. But that wasn't all. Congressman Min Jong also instigated a rebellion by a workers' union manager. Min Jong used the fact that the manager had embezzled money from the fund to pay her son's tuition to threaten the other party and asked the manager to come to his press conference and badmouth Kyung-suk in front of everyone. The manager bluntly said that Kyung-suk had used the fund for personal purposes. Kyung-suk was attacked from both sides and was in a serious crisis. On this side, Do-hee had no idea what was happening and was still looking for her father. She finally found her father, but he had turned into a cold corpse. While searching for way home, he was hit by a car and passed away. After seeing father's body, Do-hee completely collapsed. She sat down on the ground in the hospital and cried heartbreakingly. After the chairman learned about this from Carl Yoon, she said she felt very sad for Do-hee, but there was not a trace of sadness on her face. She asked Carl Yoon to send a wreath. It had to be surrounded by Do-hee's favorite water hyacinth. Meanwhile, without Do-hee's guidance, Kyung-suk's campaign team became extremely chaotic. They were unilaterally and crazily attacked by Congressman Min Jong. Even Kyung-suk's husband was in trouble. The situation was becoming extremely difficult. In a situation where there was no advisor to guide, Kyung-suk could only act on her reckless intuition. Min Jong wanted this to happen. She just sat back and waited for Kyung-suk to make a bigger mistake. Not long after, Do-hee held a funeral for her father. During the funeral, Carl Yoon came to pay his respects, and Do-hee received him politely. But it wasn't until Carl Yoon left that Do-hee discovered the water hyacinth that only the chairman knew. From the wreath that Carl Yoon brought to pay his respects, Do-hee quickly saw the chairman and that he was an accomplice. At this moment, Do-hee understood the chairman's previous warning. Her father's passing turned out to be caused by the chairman. Kyung-suk knew that Do-hee's father had an accident, so she immediately brought someone from the election team to pay her respects. Kyung-suk sat down next to Do-hee to comfort and bluntly said that no matter what happened, she would still be by Do-hee's side. Perhaps Kyung-suk was born with the ability to be a leader. Although she doesn't have many schemes and tricks in her head, she can always move the people around her with her sincerity. Kyung-suk's generosity is also shown through her feelings for her manager. Even though was betrayed by the other party, Kyung-suk was not angry. Kyung-suk even went to the manager's house and wanted to talk to her. But the manager knew that she had done something wrong to Kyung-suk, so she could only resolutely brainwash herself into thinking that Kyung-suk was a cruel and evil person, and that she had done nothing wrong. But her persistence was completely broken with just one action. Hearing those criticisms, Kyung-suk was not angry. On the contrary, Kyung-suk helped the manager put a scarf around her neck and held her cold hands, feeling more sorry than ever. The manager finally hugged Kyung-suk and admitted that she had embezzled the fund to pay her son's tuition. Min Jong found out and threatened her. Kyung-suk still relied on sincerity to reconcile with the manager. Do-hee also overcame her pain and resolutely returned to the campaign office. She began to develop her next strategy. But at this moment, Kyung-suk suddenly felt wavering. Kyung-suk wanted to withdraw from the election because if she wanted to erase the stain of embezzling the organization's funds, she had to let the manager bear the consequences. But Kyung-suk knew that the manager's family situation was also very difficult. Her husband was sick and bedridden, and her son had just graduated from university and found a stable job. If she were to bear the consequences now, it would be no different from ruining her entire family's life. Kyung-suk couldn't do that. After hearing Kyung-suk's words, Do-hee was extremely angry. After the two argued, they left unhappily. Do-hee gave up everything to come to this point, even sacrificing her father's life. So she couldn't let Kyung-suk give up running for election. But the next day, news of the manager's failed attempt to leave life by taking poison spread. After Min Jong learned about it, she immediately asked Director Jung-suk to continue spreading rumors and said that the manager's matter was related to Kyung-suk's threats. Min Jong's cruelty made Director Jung-suk feel extremely surprised. He gradually could not accept that the person he helped and supported was like such a devil. After Kyung-suk received the news, she did not care about public opinion and rumors and immediately rushed to the hospital to visit the manager. Seeing another innocent person caught up in the political struggle and almost lost life, Do-hee seemed to have seen through everything. She felt a little wonder if she wrong when chose to avenge. Do-hee told Kyung-suk that Do-hee agreed to give up this meaningless election. If Do-hee wanted to help Hee-sil take revenge and involved more people's lives, then she was really wrong. The two of them broke up amicably in the election office and officially ended the campaign. Right at the press conference that Kyung-suk held to announce her withdrawal from the election, Director Jung-suk went to the broadcasting room and played the recording of the conversation when Congressman Min Jong ordered him to kill the manager and blame Kyung-suk for everyone to hear. In an instant, all the reporters here were in chaos. Kyung-suk, standing on the podium, was also extremely shocked. She held back her words of withdrawal and loudly declared to all the reporters that she would absolutely not give up. Even if she died, she would fight Congressman Min Jong to the end. After the recording was revealed, Congressman Min Jong announced withdrawal from the election in despair, but Kyung-suk's approval rating continued to increase. Kyung-suk apologizes to Do-hee for her weakness in the past. Kyung-suk says that this time she will charge forward with all her might and will never back down. Along with Do-hee's father's grudge, Kyung-suk will make them pay a double price. The next battle will be a direct confrontation between Kyung-suk and Jae-min. Do-hee's strategy is to use Jae-min's feelings to make a breakthrough. Carl Yoon did not expect that Congressman Min Jong would fail like this. After losing Congressman Min Jong's barrier, Carl Yoon is forced to guard against Jae-min's weaknesses. His biggest weakness right now is Yi-sol's death. Carl Yoon wants to know if Yi-sol's secretary's death is related to Jae-min. Jae-min has always kept this a secret because that day before Yi-sol jumped off the building, Yi-sol and Jae-min had a heated argument. Do-hee went to the foreign nurse that Chae-ryong had hired before and asked the nurse to expose the harsh treatment that nurse received when working at Chae-ryong's house. This action was to arouse public anger against the wealthy, trampling on the dignity of working women. As expected, as soon as the news was released, women's groups and mothers' groups across the country began to criticize the couple Jae-min and Chae-ryong, causing Jae-min's approval rating to drop. Carl Yoon's strategy in this regard was to ignore everything. Jae-min continued to use his wealth to appeal to and win votes from the poor. This required him to give more lectures so that he could persuade the people in the market to invest in the market redevelopment that he had initiated. Later, each of them could own an apartment in Seoul. While Jae-min was giving an emotional speech, a man suddenly appeared in the crowd holding a knife and launched an attack on Jae-min. That man was quickly caught. It was known that this person was a resident of the market and also a supporter of Kyung-suk's election. Carl Yoon immediately prepared to announce the news, indicating that this attack was directed by Kyung-suk. Do-hee realized that this attack was most likely planned by Jae-min himself. Do-hee suggested that Kyung-suk should visit the perpetrator first, but Kyung-suk insisted on visiting Jae-min and personally investigating whether it was all his play or not. Kyung-suk had very special feelings for everyone in the market. After all, they were comrades who fought together. When Kyung-suk asked Jae-min if he had bribed that man, Jae-min slyly smiled and bluntly said that the reason why God could become God was because he was crucified. Jae-min meant that his injury was indeed premeditated and that he only wanted to gain a higher moral ground. Kyung-suk laughed. The people in the market had already lived in such hardships, but Jae-min had turned that man into someone with a bad background for the sake of his image. Her words were filled with heartache, but Jae-min didn't care at all. After speaking, he leisurely lay down on the bed and ordered Kyung-suk to send the guests away. Meanwhile, Do-hee had come to visit the pitiful man, but accidentally met Carl Yoon there. Do-hee immediately questioned him whether he was the one who had harmed her father. Carl Yoon said bluntly that there was no concept of killing in politics. He was just eliminating someone who got in the way. Tonight, both Kyung-suk and Do-hee were in bad moods because they had both encountered the most terrifying demon in the world. The two cheered each other on. After returning to the campaign office, they discussed their next strategy. Do-hee was preparing to take advantage of Jae-min's complicated relationships. His love relationships were not simple. It was just that those girls did not dare to testify against Jae-min. His team was extremely solid, so there seemed to be no point in making a breakthrough. But at this moment, Chae-ryong saw her husband's intimate behavior with Ji-yeon, and she began to feel jealous. In fact, Ji-yeon was indeed Jae-min's current lover, and she was already several weeks pregnant. Carl Yoon continued to attract political partners for Jae-min. This time he found a very strong ally. He recruited the church priest and the political party behind him into the campaign team. The church has tens of thousands of devout followers, which means that director Jae-min can get a lot of votes here. Jae-min's career is going well, so he visits his father's grave. He says that he is about to inherit his father's unfinished legacy. It turns out that Jae-min's father is also a politician. After failing in an election, he chose an extreme way to leave this world. But Jae-min doesn't know that the person who forced his father to death that year was Carl Yoon. Seeing that Jae-min's election is going very well, while Kyung-suk on this side is still having a headache about the election fund, Do-hee has no choice but to accept the political party's proposal. Do-hee tells Kyung-suk to meet with a businessman to negotiate about funding for the election campaign, but lawyer Kyung-suk is extremely against this. Not only does Kyung-suk not agree, but she also criticizes Do-hee and saying that Do-hee Do-hee has forgotten the compromise between the two of them. Since deciding to run for election, Kyung-suk has said that she cannot do anything illegal and that every move she makes must be fair and open. Although Do-hee was also helpless about this, Do-hee also knew that this was Kyung-suk's unique personality and that it was all that made her attractive. At this time, Sojin suddenly contacted Do-hee and bluntly said that she would sponsor Do-hee and help Kyung-suk win the Seoul mayor's election. Because Sojin had seen through Jae-min's personality a long time ago, he would gradually swallow up the entire unsung group. As the eldest daughter of the family, Sojin would absolutely resolutely protect her own family's interests. But Do-hee did not agree. If she could not compete with Jae-min in terms of material things, then Do-hee could only turn back and investigate Yi-seol's death to see if it was related to Jae-min. Do-hee went to find her former subordinate. The subordinate told Do-hee that after Yi-seol died, Jiyeon had deleted all the surveillance videos of the day. Furthermore, she threw away all of Yi-seol's belongings. Just as was thinking of probing further, Do-hee came to find Jiyeon. After entering the room, Do-hee glanced around and saw the clock, newspapers, and other things placed on the table, as well as bottles of wine on the bar. Based on Do-hee's understanding of the preferences of each person in the chairman's family, Do-hee concluded that Jiyeon and Jae-min were having an affair. Do-hee bluntly said that if Do-hee exposed their affair, Jiyeon would definitely be abandoned. But Jiyeon was very determined that Jae-min would definitely not abandon her because she had a trump card in her hand. Seeing Jiyeon so infatuated with love like that, Do-hee could only leave. Before leaving, Do-hee saw a box of vitamins that pregnant women often use in the corner of the cupboard. Do-hee realized that Jiyeon was pregnant, so if this matter was made public, the people in that family would be the first to attack Jiyeon. At that time, Do-hee really wouldn't be able to know the secret of Secretary Yi-seol's death. Considering these things, Do-hee temporarily decided not to make public the fact that Jiyeon and Jae-min were having an affair. Although Jiyeon trusted Jae-min very much, Do-hee's reminders still made her feel uneasy. Jiyeon went to the bank's safe today and took out Yi-seol's phone. The election was in its final stages, so Kyung-suk was busy giving lectures day and night. She neglected to take care of her small family. When she heard the news about her son, he had gotten into a fight with a friend at school and was taken to the police station. The parents of the friend who was beaten were extremely aggressive and saying that they would definitely send Kyung-suk's son to jail and put a stain on Kyung-suk's political career. Kyung-suk was extremely worried. At this time, she not only had to deal with the election chaos, but also family conflicts. Do-hee immediately went to investigate the cause of the fight and carefully blocked all the news so that Carl Yoon and the others could not find out about it. However, he quickly obtained the video recording of the fight. Very quickly, the media, which had been bribed by the Unsung group, immediately stirred up public opinion on the internet, accusing lawyer Kyung-suk of trying to use her power to resolve the case of her son fighting at school. This time, the negative news about Kyung-suk's son spread quickly, making Do-hee vaguely feel that she had also fallen into a trap. Just finished speaking, director Jung-sok suddenly pushed the door open and confirmed Do-hee's thoughts. In a few days, the final stage of the election would officially begin. Nicknamed the Dark Period, using slanderous words to steal votes was the most common tactic used by election teams. After director Jung-suk betrayed Congressman Min Jung, Kyung-suk told Jung-suk the news that Do-hee's father was murdered by Carl Yoon. Director Jung-suk had deep feelings for Do-hee's father, so in order to help him seek justice, Jung-suk agreed to join Kyung-suk's campaign team. At this time, news of the family of the beaten classmate holding a press conference was spread. During the press conference, they lied that Kyung-suk and her son were a couple of experts at making things difficult for others. In addition, Carl Yoon also targeted the police station and published many articles suspecting that the police station chief had been bribed by Kyung-suk. That was why her son had not been arrested yet. Meanwhile, the innocent chief was having a headache because he was involved in this matter. Carl Yoon promptly went to the chief's door and said that the chief would reach retirement age next year. If Jae-min could sit in the mayor's chair, he would continue to arrange a good job for the chief. Hearing this, the chief immediately turned around and quickly convicted Kyung-suk's son. Kyung-suk's son was charged with attempted murder and was quickly handed over to the prosecutor's office. Do-hee hurriedly went to the prosecutor's office, and as soon as she entered the prosecutor's office, she saw Jiyeon bribing the other party. Do-hee could not believe it and only felt that Jae-min was really too much. In order to defeat his opponent, he could brazenly sacrifice the future of a child. Jiyeon was still very calm. She said that today's outcome was the retribution for Do-hee's betrayal of the group. As long as Kyung-suk withdrew from the election before the trial trial ended, Ji-yeon would spare Kyung-suk's son. Do-hee suddenly laughed and said that Ji-yeon was pregnant with Jaemin's child. When Ji-yeon gave birth to the child and no one claimed it, that was the true retribution. After returning, Do-hee relayed what Ji-yeon said to Kyung-suk. Although Do-hee did not agree to withdraw from the election at that time, she thought that this matter still needed to be left to Kyung-suk to make her own decision. After a long time of thinking, Kyung-suk went to her son's cell to visit her and told that she would withdraw from the election. Unexpectedly, the boy reacted strongly and did not agree to let his mother give up so easily. If Kyung-suk gave up now, the slander she had to endure would no longer be worth it. Kyung-suk's son was ready to go to jail, and he would also wait for his mother to return in joy of victory. Receiving encouragement from Kyung-suk's son once again lifted her spirits. Meanwhile, Do-hee took advantage of her free time to meet Seo-jin and proposed to ask for 20 billion won in sponsorship for the election. In exchange, Do-hee would definitely help Kyung-suk become mayor of Seoul and then help Seo-jin take over the management of the family business. After a few days of investigation, Kyung-suk's campaign team also found out the reason for the fight between Kyung-suk's son. The truth was that the beaten boy had posted a photoshopped picture of Kyung-suk online first and intentionally provoked Kyung-suk's son, which led to the fight. Do-hee went to the hospital to see the beaten boy and said that Kyung-suk's son might go to jail, but from now on, he will be sentenced for life. No matter if he goes to college, works outside, or gets married, Do-hee will make public everything he has done, making him uneasy. With just a few words, the male student began to feel scared. He frankly said that he had been bribed by a group of adults. Every time he provoked Kyung-suk's son, they would give him money many times more than the amount in the game. After clearly confirming the truth of the matter, Do-hee used the 20 billion funded by Seo-jin to bribe a high-ranking official of the Korean Ministry of Education and asked him to hold an emergency press conference to publicize the truth about the beaten male student posting fake photos of Kyung-suk and deliberately provoking her son. Until now, public opinion has once again turned around, and Kyung-suk's approval rating has once again skyrocketed. This time, it was Jaemin's turn to frown. Not long after, the media exposed Jaemin and Ji-yeon's affair and also discovered that Ji-yeon was pregnant. This opportunity became an important weapon for Kyung-suk's team to launch an attack. Even Carl Yoon was extremely scared and hurriedly thought of a way to deal with it, but Jaemin's position was completely disrupted. Ji-yeon was still respected before, but in just a moment, she had become a thorn in Jaemin's eyes. He only wished he could get rid of her as soon as possible, but Carl Yoon told him that it was best not to act rashly because the news had been leaked, so everyone's eyes were on Ji-yeon. If something happened to her, now Jaemin would definitely be the first suspect. Carl Yoon's strategy was to first appease Ji-yeon, absolutely not to blame or avoid her, but instead to be more caring and gentle with Ji-yeon. The purpose was to keep Ji-yeon's loyalty in the palm of his hand, so Jaemin went to Ji-yeon's house that evening and expressed his love and loyalty. Furthermore, he gave Ji-yeon a pair of baby shoes which successfully kept her in the palm of his hand. In order to turn this news into a love scandal, Carl Yoon immediately arranged a boyfriend for Ji-yeon and asked Ji-yeon and Jaemin to hold a press conference to admit that the baby in Ji-yeon's belly was her boyfriend's. But at the press conference below the stage, there was a reporter who knew Do-hee. She did not hesitate to publicly release the surveillance video in Ji-yeon's apartment building. Through several videos, it was shown that Jaemin had repeatedly gone to Ji-yeon's house alone and stayed overnight until the next morning before leaving. How to explain this? Jaemin began to worry and did not dare to face the question directly. Under the constant questioning from the reporters, Ji-yeon fainted. The failure of the press conference made Jaemin even more dissatisfied with Ji-yeon, but even so, he still had to continue to endure and act warm and gentle in front of Ji-yeon. But Ji-yeon was also a smart person. She knew very well that she had become a stumbling block for Jaemin. No matter how gentle he appeared, he probably had a different face behind his back. So Ji-yeon told the truth about Yi-sol's death. Furthermore, she clearly expressed that if Jaemin could protect her safety, she would hide the secret of Yi-sol's secretary's death deep in her heart. In addition, Ji-yeon also quietly went to do a DNA test of the child in her womb. When necessary, these two things could become her talisman at any time. Ji-yeon's existence had become a potential danger. Jaemin turned back and told Carl Yoon that it was time to eliminate Ji-yeon. They had arranged Ji-yeon's death as a suicide and used her death to prove Ji-yeon's saintly image while also eliminating their own danger. danger. Then they pointed the blame of forcing others to death at Kyung-suk and Do-hee. In addition to devising a plan to eliminate Ji-yeon, Jae-min also privately promised his constituents that he would make the residents of Seoul participate in the purchase of half of the shares of the duty-free store. This promise was so attractive that Jae-min's approval rating skyrocketed in an instant. But because he made these promises without the chairman's approval, he was still reprimanded in the end. But now, Jae-min was determined to follow through. He no longer bowed to the chairman and bluntly said that he was now the sole pillar of the Yoon-sung group. Only if he was elected mayor of Seoul could the chairman and her two unlucky daughters maintain the family's prosperity and wealth. Seo-jin told Do-hee about this. Do-hee realized that Jae-min had truly revealed his true nature and was full of energy for the final sprint. Do-hee asked Seo-jin to have someone watch over Ji-yeon carefully in case Jae-min harmed her. But the next day, Seo-jin heard that his younger sister Chae-ryong came to the hospital where Ji-yeon was lying with an arrogant manner. It turned out that today was the day that Jae-min had set for Ji-yeon's death. Jae-min had chosen Chae-ryong to be the one to carry out the mission this time. Chae-ryong took Ji-yeon out of the hospital. Chae-ryong even held Ji-yeon's hand and hugged her in front of the media, showing the attitude of a wealthy family's wife. But after Ji-yeon got into the car, Chae-ryong whispered in Ji-yeon's ear that today was Ji-yeon's death day. Fortunately, Seo-jin had reported the news to Do-hee in time, so she asked Dongju to drive and follow Ji-yeon's car. But the situation was not very good. Ji-yeon was drugged in the car. And today was the final online Sea Hero competition between Kyung-suk and Jae-min. Carl Yoon had prepared that during the speech, Carl Yoon would insert the news of Ji-yeon's death. At the same time, he also forged her will and directly pointed out that Kyung-suk and Do-hee were the ones who caused Ji-yeon to left her life. Ji-yeon was facing life-threatening danger. Do-hee hurriedly drove to the rescue. Do-hee was determined to save Ji-yeon and bring her back safely. At the same time, the public speech of the Seoul mayor candidates officially began. Kyung-suk was the first to speak. Kyung-suk used the reason of the new tax-free building of the Super Unsung Group to reprimand the Unsung Group that Jae-min worked for. Many high-ranking officials were bribed to build the building, but unexpectedly, Jae-min directly took out a list of high-ranking officials who received benefits from the Unsung Group and deliberately said that this list was made by Kyung-suk's campaign team. He also accused lawyer Kyung-suk of violating election laws and fabricating evidence to frame her opponent. It turned out that there was planted spy in Kyung-suk's campaign team. That person had already brought this list to Jae-min. Kyung-suk was attacked and had no time to react. When she was at a loss for how to fight back, the scene received news that shocked everyone. Ji-yeon posted her suicide note on her personal page. Ji-yeon denied having an affair with Jae-min and that it was all fake news. It was all created by her predecessor Do-hee to win the election. Do-hee pushed Ji-yeon to take the brunt of everything. Ji-yeon admitted that she couldn't handle the pressure and chose to leave this world. Thus, the wave of public opinion once again turned towards Do-hee and Kyung-suk's campaign team. Jae-min arrogantly blamed Kyung-suk for this problem. He said that Kyung-suk's team who used such despicable tricks were completely unworthy of running for election. Kyung-suk was so speechless that she could only swear that if her team had fabricated this story, she would willingly withdraw from the election. Otherwise, Jae-min would have to pay a heavy price. Jae-min said that if assistant Ji-yeon was still alive and well, why would they care about these things? Jae-min's performance made Kyung-suk feel extremely disgusted. Right now, only if Do-hee successfully saved Ji-yeon would those lies be exposed. At this time, Jae-min's subordinates had brought the unconscious Ji-yeon to the riverbank. Do-hee chased after Jae-min's subordinate's car and arrived here. She was about to save Ji-yeon when she was knocked unconscious and fell to the ground. Luckily, Dongju also rushed to the rescue in time. He used all his strength to break the car door and successfully save Ji-yeon. Facing the pursuit of Jae-min's subordinates, Dongju could only tell Do-hee to take Ji-yeon to the hospital first. He would stay behind to deal with these thugs, but in the end he was stabbed by them and thrown into the river. Luckily, the passerby discovered that Dongju was injured and took him to the hospital. Ji-yeon's whereabouts are still unknown. Jae-min's campaign team is also very tense. Now, there is only one day left until the election, so as long as Ji-yeon does not return before the election ends, Jae-min will be able to successfully win. Everything will be resolved, so Jae-min's team has started using every trick to smear Kyung-suk. Just when Kyung-suk was in a passive position, Ji-yeon finally woke up. Seeing Do-hee next to her, Ji-yeon did not show any gratitude. Ji-yeon knew that Do-hee risked her life to save her, just to use her to help Kyung-suk successfully sit in the market position, but Do-hee just sighed. All Do-hee did was not want Isol's tragic death to happen again. Ji-yeon was deeply moved when she heard that. So Ji-yeon appeared and admitted everything in front of the media. Ji-yeon told the truth that that Jae-min had forged the will, then kidnapped and attempted to murder her. The truth was revealed. Jae-min knew that everything was over. When Jae-min was in a panic, he suddenly received a call from Yi-sol's dead secretary. It turned out that Yi-sol's phone had been found by Do-hee. Do-hee had finally waited for this moment. She dealt Jae-min the final blow. Do-hee made an appointment to meet Jae-min in front of Yi-sol's ashes and directly played Yi-sol's pre-death recording. The truth was finally revealed. That day on the rooftop, Yi-sol had opened the recording in advance to let Jae-min expose the evil deeds he had done to her. Ji-sol wanted Jae-min to publicly apologize to her. Jae-min of course refused to agree. He had killed his secretary in an unacceptable way. While Do-hee was opening the recording, Kyung-suk was revealing the truth about Yi-sol's death in front of everyone. Jae-min's evil deeds had been exposed. He was extremely angry and aggressively attacked Do-hee, but she was still not afraid. Once again, Do-hee attacked him. She told the truth about Carl Yoon trying his best to help Jae-min. That year, Jae-min's father was about to become president, but Carl Yoon accused him of corruption, causing Jae-min's father to despair and left the life. Carl Yoon felt extremely regretful, so he agreeing to help a useless person like Jae-min to clear his past sins. The enemy suddenly became biggest support. Such a big blow made Jae-min completely collapse. He sat down on the ground. Jae-min lay down to pick up the button and phone that Do-hee had thrown down, then knelt down on the ground and cried miserably. Up to now, Do-hee had also fulfilled her promise to make Jae-min kneel in front of Secretary Yi-sol. Do-hee went to the top of the mountain to look at the bustling Seoul. At this moment, she could finally breathe a sigh of relief because Jae-min and the Unsung group could not escape being implicated. The president was extremely angry. She decided to let Jae-min bear everything. That night, Jae-min was murdered in his apartment. Jae-min was found dead in his own room. A suicide note was left at the scene. Jae-min had completely confessed to intentionally killing Ji-yeon and Secretary Yi-sol and also felt very guilty for the president's training. Therefore, he chose to leave this world. No matter what, Jae-min became the president's abandoned son. His death was gradually forgotten. On the day of the celebration, lawyer Kyung-suk was elected mayor. While Kyung-suk was being interviewed, she was asked a very sharp question by a reporter, which was that there was news that during Kyung-suk's election campaign, she had received a secret investment from Unsung Group. Of course, Kyung-suk did not know about this. She also did not believe that there was someone in her team who secretly received investment money. But the reporter still did not give up and directly pointed out Do-hee to answer this question. Do-hee stepped up to the podium, facing countless spotlights. She bluntly admitted that she had received 20 billion won worth of support from Unsung Group. Hearing that, even Kyung-suk could not believe her ears. Time went back to the evening when Do-hee traded with So-jin. So-jin felt that even the top billionaires would have difficulty getting 20 billion won in just one night. But Do-hee knew that the chairman had a personal account in the Cayman Islands where there was a huge black fund that exceeded 20 billion. Do-hee asked So-jin to directly transfer the money into her account. So-jin felt a little suspicious that if she directly transferred it to Do-hee, this matter would definitely be discovered. But what Do-hee wanted was for the collusion between the two to be exposed. Only then would the prosecutor investigate the chairman's secret account. When the chairman failed and lost everything, So-jin had the opportunity to take over the entire business. Not long after, the prosecutor's office began investigating Unsung Group. But Do-hee was also implicated in this matter because of bribery, so she could no longer stay by Kyung-suk's side to help her. But Do-hee did not feel any regret. Do-hee believed that Kyung-suk was fully capable of building a better Seoul and would absolutely not disappoint her expectations. After the chairman's secret fund was exposed, So-jin inherited the group as she wished. The price to pay is to agree to Kyung-suk's request to transfer 90% of the shares of the duty-free shops to private companies in Seoul. At the same time, entrust all rights to professional management staff. After Do-hee entered prison, she has always followed Kyung-suk's political activities. Today, a strange man suddenly appeared. He was wearing a neat suit. At first glance, it was clear that he was a politician. This man hoped that Do-hee could help him succeed. The movie ends here. Thank you everyone for watching. Goodbye and see you again.